I'd love your calls now on whether it's right to give free childcare to more parents. 0207 862 2222. Tell us what you think. Hundreds of thousands of working parents can now claim 15 hours of government-funded childcare a week. That's after the scheme, originally launched by the Tory government, was extended this week to parents with kids aged between 9 months and 2 years. The Education Secretary said the move would help hard-pressed parents and allow more of them back to work. But childminders and nurseries have struggled to provide the more than 15,000 extra places needed. And this was something, there's a problem that started under the Conservatives, Jamila, wasn't it? That something was promised that somebody else had to deliver.
Well, it's not a problem. I think we should rise to the occasion. The fact that we are, helping boost an industry like childcare is a good thing. We need to start training more people to get them into this industry.
But the vouchers or whatever it is, the payments aren't enough to pay the staff.
Thing is, you can't subsidise everything. I think we're helping a lot, which is a lot more than was being done before. So we can't pay for everything.
Under the Conservative government, the childcare sector was completely decimated. I was listening to an interview the other day with a guy from the childcare's representative body saying that 2/3 of the childcare places that they had a few years ago have now completely disappeared. There's an exodus of childcare workers.
But why was that?
That's what the Labour have inherited, is yet again another industry or another sector that's completely on its knees.
Why is that?
Why did it happen?
Well, it's because of red tape and workplace conditions, and I guess cost of living and the ability. A lot of people who are carers need to also care for their own kids, and there's all sorts of different factors that come into
Eastern
it.
Europeans coming in, I don't know.
We seem to have been brainwashed as a society, though, into this is my main thought on it. We seem to have been brainwashed as a society into a situation where we're all expected to go to work all of the time and we can't afford to look after our own children. What sort of society is that we've built?
But you're kind of presuming that people don't want to go to work. There are some families and young parents who actually want to get back to work. They've had some time at home. They still want to pursue their careers, and they should be afforded the opportunity to do that if that's something they want to do. You don't have to go back to work, but if you do want to, it's nice.
I know I'll get stick for this.
Support.
I just feel in my stomach. I don't have kids. I'm a gay guy. I don't have kids. I'm not saying it should be the man or the woman, or the man and the woman. I don't care who it is, but I do feel that if you're going to have kids, then one of the parents at least should bring up the kids.
You should be able to afford
and they should
to
be
look after them without
do
work,
that,
both
and
working.
afford to own a home and pay their mortgage or their rent.
Who's going to pay for them both to stay at home?
Well, they should be able to pay for it themselves. This is what I'm talking about. This is the brainwashing that we seem to have accepted. We should be able to afford a house without both parents having to work.
Right, so only families who can afford to have children. If you're a single person and you suddenly become pregnant, what do you do?
No, we face up to the fact that houses are overvalued and that rent is too much for a start, and the cost of living needs to be brought back under control. We've allowed ourselves to sleepwalk into a situation where you cannot afford to live unless both parents work full time. That is not good for kids. That's not good for the parents either, I don't think.
There are a lot of single parent families, so I don't know if that argument really works for that. But you're kind of talking about an ideal world where everything's perfect and everyone can live for free.
It existed not that long ago. We had a world where one parent could work and the other parent looked after the kids. And again, I'm not saying it has to be the mum.
But that was you're describing my childhood, where my mum would have been happy to be described as a housewife, and my dad went off to work and was a teacher. And I suppose the problem with that is that when you look at it, my mum didn't really, had she wanted to have a brilliant career and start a business like you've done, she wouldn't have really had that option. So you want to kind of free her up to at least be able to do that, don't you? Or maybe not. If you can't afford it, you can't do it.
Maybe you can't afford it. Maybe the most important thing in your life is your children. I mean, it's a controversial
fundamentally,
thing
I think
to say,
Andy doesn't want to pay tax to help pay for other people's children. Don't think I'm being unfair there. That's your...
Childcare. Yeah. Don't want to pay for education. Happy to pay my tax for that.
Okay.
This is the point. It's just education starting earlier. You already have 2-year-olds, 3 to 4-year-olds getting subsidised childcare, so it's just starting it earlier. And if you want the kids to be educated well and have this structure in their lives, then starting them early isn't a bad thing.
Let's talk to Neil in Berkshire. Hi, Neil. Oh, he's not there. OK, he's listened for a bit and then decided to go.
I don't know how many... I really don't... Let's not make the assumption that all parents are desperate to get back to work. There are a lot of parents who really are struggling with the cost of childcare, but they feel they have to because they have got a higher mortgage that they have to pay and because life is more expensive now and bills have gone up. They're trapped. And I think it's wrong for us to just accept that as the norm.
Neil is in Berkshire now. Hi, Neil.
Hello.
What do you think? Is it right for the government to say, right, we're now going to concentrate on childcare for much younger children?
No, it's just the word free. Well, it's not free. I'm paying for it. All the taxpayers are paying for it. And I don't believe that we should be paying for it. We should have it means tested. The people who need it, who can't afford it, but the people who can afford it, they should be paying for their own children. I shouldn't have to subsidise their childcare.
Yeah, I don't. When you say people who can afford it, would you include somebody they've got good income, but they've got no money available because they've got a big mortgage? Would they be able to afford it in your books?
Well, that's for people far smarter than me to decide.
Yeah, no. Well, no. I mean, that's the trouble. That they would be probably viewed as being rich enough to afford it, but they haven't got any money because they've got a massive mortgage.
Because of the cost, absolutely.
Because how do you bring house prices down out of interest without losing the next election by about 200 seats? Because if you decide you're going to, I love that Andy West runs the country, and your first policy is to trigger a massive housing crash. How popular is that going to be, Andy?
It either has to happen or it doesn't have to happen. It has to happen. I'm sorry, luckily I'm not in the business of having to win votes, but we do as a country need to look at ourselves in the mirror and accept that we are causing huge damage to our own society by having wildly overpriced houses.
Well, you raise a good point.
Two things on that. First of all, it is means tested, so people over 100,000 aren't going to be getting subsidised childcare. And in terms of housing stock, that's the only way you can bring prices down is to increase the stock, start building, which you
Well, as long as they can't be bought by anyone who already owns a home, perhaps.
There's a big problem in terms of
we should have a law. You
affordability.
cannot buy more than 2 homes in your lifetime.
What have you got against landlords?
I've got a lot, against landlords. Someone who's been renting my entire adult life. Don't ask me that question. We'll be here all afternoon.
All right, Neil, thank you. David in Newport, hi.
Hi, Jeremy. Good morning to you and the panel.
Good morning. Is it right for them to extend free childcare?
No, sir, I'm afraid it's not. It is not a good position to be in.
Why not?
Whereas, why should the taxpayers pay for other people to bring up their children? I would also link this item with the previous one, in the much that childcare do not educate and discipline the children. Childcare look after the children. It's the parents' job to discipline. And they won't do it. This is why a lot of kids are going to school today and they're not potty trained, they're not reading alphabets, they don't read books, they can't count more than 10. And it's all to do with the fact that childcare places do not educate. They look after them and play games with them. And the kids are brought up with no discipline.
Oh.
Parents, please do the job.
Oh, that's all miserable. Is that true? Do you agree with that?
Well, look, I do agree in parenting, and I think the Labour Party want teachers to teach kids how to brush their teeth. So I think they're kind of saying that parents shouldn't parent anymore, which I don't agree with.
Well, they think kids' teeth are falling out, so they're trying to do something about it. David, thank you. Sandra on Facebook says, what happened to parental responsibility? I thought the idea of having children was for you to look after and nurture them. So Andy was saying, not the state. Nicola's on Facebook too. She says 100% yes. I'm having to go back to work at the end of September because I'm self-employed. I was only able to claim maternity allowance, which is a pittance compared to what I usually earn. The last 9 months have been hell financially. Kevin on Facebook says, while a good idea, it shows how stupid this government is. Nothing seems to have been properly thought through, the cost, viability or implications down the line. Loads there. Thank you so much. Jenny in London, hello.
Good morning.
What do you think? You don't think childcare is the answer either?
It's not so much, I don't care about the money, but my heart absolutely sinks when I heard that 9-month-old babies were going to be put into nursery. A child, certainly until they're about 3, need to be looked after by the closest person to them, which is usually the mother. And I just think it's heartbreaking. Any child psychologist, any health visitor, any child psychiatrist will tell you the same.
Yeah,
I think it's sad.
Yeah, but the mum, if it is the mum, she may want to get back to work because she may be worried about her job.
Well, I'm sorry, Jeremy. Call me old-fashioned, but you should have thought of that before you got pregnant or had a baby. Like you, I was brought up by a mother. And I'm not saying I'm any better than anybody else, but I think I certainly have benefited from that. And that just seems the more natural thing to do. And I think everybody's in denial.
Yeah.
I mean, how much individual care do you think your baby of 9 months old is going to get when that person looking after them is probably looking after at least another 3, because I think the ratio
What's a thought?
now
Well, at least another
is 4
3.
to
Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Maybe the whole scheme's crackpot then, Jamila.
I don't know, actually.
It is.
I think, Jenny, you make a good point. 9 months is quite early. I think it's in the case of families who can't afford not to, where it is helpful. But I do appreciate what you're saying. I think, I do think you're right at 9 months is quite early for young babies to not be.
Do you
with
know,
their
Jenny,
parents.
I was saying about my mum that, bless her, you know, she might look back on her life, and also particularly when the kids leave for college or whatever, she thinks, oh, I could have had a career, I could have done this, could have done that.
Yeah,
but I
but
was...
Jeremy, you can go back to work when your child is, say, 3 or 4, when they're old enough to understand, when they've had the benefit of that security of your love and, you know, their own environment. And you can still do things with children. You don't have to stay indoors.
No.
I mean, in fact, some of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life have been housewives, because most mothers that work full time and they're trying to be all things to all people. And in fact, I used to work in psychiatry, and a lot of mothers end up at the end of their tether and having psychiatric treatment because they cannot cope with trying to have it all.
Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. What an interesting call. What do you think of that, Andy?
It's partly, it's really interesting what Jenny was saying. It's partly the way society undervalues motherhood and undervalues women generally, in a way, isn't it? It's patronising and condescending to say you brought up your kids, therefore you're less worthwhile than, you know, your husband who carried on working, you know, for the bank or whatever.
But we don't mention the husband at all here. I mean, it's like the dad's got a free pass. No one says, well, why is the dad not doing this? You know,
I said at the start, it could be the guy who stays home, and I think we need to normalise that more.
Yeah,
Agree.
yeah, exactly,
Agree on that,
exactly.
yeah.
The childcare thing, though, does it actually pay off? Do you end up getting people back into work and paying tax and all?
It does, because I think if you look at the statistics after COVID, women and people over 50s weren't going back to work, and they kind of put that down to childcare, and, you know, over 50s looking after their grandparents, women perhaps staying at home because they were looking after their kids. And I think having that flexibility, I understand if you don't want to work a full week, but if you want to go back in 1 to 2 days a week, maybe just for your sanity, to talk to an adult, I don't think we should be hindering people from doing that.